Hello, everyone. Jax West from Stephen Avery Project, Justice with Jax, and MAM Gossip. We are going to talk about a few things today. Um, I'm pulling up right now. Christopher gives me my little cliff notes of everything that he wants me to cover. So let me scroll back in his message to me on what to cover. So, first, let me wish everybody a happy new year. Let this be the year that Stephen and Brendan and all the wrongfully convicted get to go home. Hello, Debbie number one. Let me turn this up too, because I had it turned down from when I was phone banking. So, the reason Christopher asked to do this live today is so we could talk about Dolores Avery. Hello, Bryce. It was posted on some of the family's Facebook pages about Dolores, and two of the family members got into a fight, as usual, about it. Happy New Year, Kat. Katrina. So, Dolores has had dementia for a long time. You know, dementia doesn't just happen overnight. So it's something that has been known. Hello, Emily. And Masha. Oh, Happy New Year to the Netherlands. But it's not something people typically want to talk about. And it is a tragic thing for Dolores to have dementia. And hello, Carol Ann. You know, um, because she's robbed of Stephen. You know, she's robbed of her mind, and through that, she will not be able to be reunited with a free Stephen. And she can't visit. It is said that the family has put Dolores in a home. I'm not going to attack the family for that. I completely understand that that is a very tall order to take care of a family member that has dementia to keep them safe. I wouldn't know how to take care of somebody with dementia. Um so this will be one of the rare instances where you won't hear me attacking that family, because I do not like that family. Let me scroll down. Debbie number two. Happy to everyone. Emily says, I don't like how Earl worded his post like she passed and it confused people. Ugh, I don't want to defend Earl, but here I guess I have to defend Earl on this one. He's dumb, and he doesn't know how to word things. So Earl is just looking at it as, because he has lost his mom, you know. So whether or not she has passed away or dementia, even though her body is still physically here, she's like gone. And with her being in a home and this being a global pandemic, you can't really visit. You've seen all these videos that they do that'll be on Facebook where people will be out the window. But even if Earl was able to do that, does Dolores even know who she is? Or he is. So I can sympathize with the family on this, but I'll never forget how they've treated Dolores all these years. And it's not been good. So, um, just because this awful thing happened, it doesn't excuse that they left her alone in an unair conditioned trailer for years. And then Dolores has been used by the family for personal gain due to Making a Murderer being a big hit. Now, Debbie McFadden, because I don't know which number you are, says Earl must be devastated. That I don't know. This is something that the family always hides too, and I don't know why. But Alan and Dolores don't really live together and haven't in a long, long time. Dolores likes to be at the salvage yard, and Alan likes to be at Crivets. And then Alan will come back because Earl and Chuck have owned the salvage yard for a while. You know, Alan's not working at the salvage yard, hasn't in a long, long time. You know, salvage yard is in those boys' names. Dolores doesn't like going to Crivets. She likes staying where she's at. Alan likes where he's at. So those two have lived separately. Doesn't mean they don't love each other. Doesn't mean they're not married. Me saying this is not a slam on either one of them because everybody has the right to live their life the way they want. So um this married couple living separately, that's fine. The family gets very mad at me, and Carla wants to prove that they're together. There's no need to do that. There's nothing wrong with them in their retirement, one wanting to live here and one wanting to live there, and they see each other a couple days a week sometimes, and sometimes it goes longer. Don't know, don't care. um I don't know what Alan and Dolores's relationship really is. On so how Alan feels, because they're apart a lot of the time, but that is still his wife. We also don't know what Alan's medical state is. So, but for me, the biggest thing is her love for Steven. Steven's love for her. And there's going to there can't be the reunion that there should have been with Dolores having dementia. I don't know the how extreme her dementia is. Everybody's case is different. So I don't know if, she's remembering family members or not. I don't know. So, um, but my heart definitely goes out to Steven. My heart also goes out to Kayla. Kayla is Dolores's granddaughter. That's Earl's daughter, Kayla. Kayla is the one that you see in Making a Murderer, who made up the story about Brendan crying and losing weight and all that kind of stuff. That's Kayla. All right. Kayla was a little girl at the time of that case, 14, right? She was 14 years old. And then she had the strength to recant on the stand. That's major. Kayla worships her grandma. Those two are, Kayla will say she's my best friend. Kayla has always wanted to be the one to take care of her grandma. Dolores lights up when Kayla's around and giggles like a little girl. You know, um, Kayla Kayla is the one that told me that she was trying to save up money to get an air conditioner for her grandma, and that she had been telling her dad and Chuck for years because Dolores had never had an air conditioner. And so she was trying to save money so she can get her grandma an air conditioner. And so I told Kayla, I've got one sitting in my garage that I don't do anything with. I'll come up there and Jeff will put the air conditioner in for, that it would be a window unit thing. That's more than enough that could cool off her trailer. Her trailer isn't big. It's not a double wide, I mean, it's, you know, and because I then offered to bring her an air conditioner, the next week, Earl and Chuck got their mother an air conditioner. Which, whatever, that's fine by me. All that mattered to me is that Dolores had an air conditioner. I don't have to be the one to give it to her. And so, if their hatred of me has to be the thing to stoke that fire and get them to give her an air conditioning unit, so be it. And hello, sexy girlfriend Miley. But Kayla, who is treated horribly by the Avery family, and it's constant ups and downs where sometimes the family likes her and then other times it's war. I know back when I used to talk to Steven, he told me that he hired Kayla. So he was paying Kayla to be Dolores's caretaker, which to me is the perfect thing in the world. Because I know Kayla has gone to school or studied on being like a nurse or a nurse assistant or something like that. I don't know for sure what it was. Dolores loves having Kayla around. Kayla loves being around her grandma. Perfect. Then money ended up missing at Dolores's trailer. And the family instantly accused Kayla. Because anytime something goes bad, they want to say Kayla did it. And it turns out it was Carla's brother Christopher who did it. I don't know if anybody apologized to Kayla after the accusations they made at her. And the family, like, when I visited Dolores at her trailer, all right, and I knew I was going to visit, and the Stephen Avery project moderators all pooled together some money that while I visited Dolores, that I gave her the money. I gave her the money in cash, as well as I had a Visa card. I don't even know why I had it. I don't recall why I had it. A gift Visa card thing that I hadn't done anything with. So I had given that to her also because I had been told before by Carla that like sometimes her pills are ordered and such. So it's nice for her to be able to have a card to do like online things. So it was like, here's some cash and here's this Visa card. And Dolores had a notebook that she wanted to write down who she got this stuff from, so I told her all the moderators' names, and so she wrote it down in her notebook. And I don't recall how much money was given to her because I've told you all a million times about me and numbers. I don't recall. So, and then Carla had, because Carla's watching. Hi, Carla. She always watches everything that I do. Hi, Carla. So Carla then had to make this big post in saying that I'm lying, that Dolores never got the money, that Dolores says she didn't get the money, blah, blah, blah. All right. Well, the picture of Dolores and I didn't even notice this. My friend who had gone with me for that, she's the one who had taken the picture. She's the one that noticed when this was all coming down. You can see in the picture, the notebook, and you can see the Visa card on the table in the picture. But when Carla was saying this, I knew back then when I went to visit her that last time. What was that? 2 years ago? I could tell she had dementia. And so I'm like, either A, she doesn't remember that I mean, yes, she wrote it down in a notebook, which now, is that why she was writing it down in the notebook? Because she knew she was going to forget that she got money in from who? Um, so I'm like, one of two ways here. Either she forgot that I gave it to her, or because who am I? Dolores doesn't need to know who I am, so doesn't know who I am, or because her own family is always stealing money from her. Is she not going to tell them that she's got the money because she wants to make sure people don't steal from her? Don't know, don't care. And when you donate money to somebody, it's not about getting credit that you did it. But still, it's so stupid when, when I mention it and then Carla has to right away say, no, you didn't. Yes, I did. I don't care if you believe it or not. Because I will never, ever, and that's one of the things that Christopher wants me to cover today. Um, I don't ever want any money that's given to Dolores, like the GoFundMe's or whatever that they do. Dolores isn't online. She's never been online. So when they're like, oh, this is Dolores's email address, Dolores doesn't have email. She doesn't know how to use any of that. She doesn't do that. So you can't, setting up a GoFundMe does not mean the money is going to Dolores. Sending gifts does not mean Dolores gets them. So I'm going to give her cash. I was going to do whatever I could to make it easier for her to have the money and that other people, it didn't have to go through other people. Going through a GoFundMe, they're not direct depositing it into Dolores's account, which would be the easiest way to do it, right? So, whatever. Um, so we don't know the full circumstances except for the people, the screenshots that we saw of what Earl posted and then what Carla posted and then Carla and Kayla arguing about it. And thank you to those who posted the screenshots in here in gossip about it. I'm just very, very sad. Dolores has been through so much in her life. And I am just so sad that she was not able to see Stephen go free and for his innocence to be proven. That really is a travesty. I hope maybe, because I don't know anything about dementia. But I do believe there are cases where they have moments of lucidity. So I'm hoping that's what we'll get in Dolores's case, that she can have moments of lucidity where she can talk to Steven on the phone, and then that he will have his mom when he goes free, hopefully this year, knock on wood. Hopefully 2021 is the year. Natalie says, when Dolores does pass on, who are they going to use for their cash scams? I hope she's okay, but we'll probably never know. Poor Stephen missing out on the time with her and be able to look after her. That's what Stephen wanted. Stephen wanted to go home and take care of his mom. He loves the salvage yard. His brothers don't care about the salvage yard. Stephen actually enjoys working at the salvage yard. So when he's talked about leaving Wisconsin, he'd like to bring the salvage yard with him. Let me jump to Masha says that they're new to the page and wants to know what my relationship is with the Averys. So, welcome, Masha. So, I run Stephen Avery Project, which is the biggest support page for Stephen. And I have had my moments with the Avery family when we have been friends and then when we're not. I have had moments with Steven where we had a good relationship and I would go visit him in the prison and we would talk on the phone. And then his family convinced him to hate me and then I don't hear from him. So okay, that's me and Steven on one visit at the prison. And here's another. I've only got, I've got 3 pictures, but 2 are from the same visit. I don't know why I even have 2 pictures from the same visit. They're almost the same picture. I think my eyes are closed in this one. They look almost all the way closed in this picture. Um, so currently, Steven doesn't like me because Sandra Greenman has convinced him that I talked shit about his mom, which wasn't true. Um, and by that, it's because the family had made a post that Dolores needed a new refrigerator. You know, another way for them to bilk money out of people. And did another GoFundMe. Um, and I once again told people the thing I always tell you is don't give money to any of the Avery's GoFundMe scams. Don't do it. Don't give money to Sandra Greenman in any of her GoFundMe scams. Sandra had a GoFundMe when her basement flooded that she needed money to fix her basement. It is so wrong for people to try and use the fans of Making a Murderer to make their lives a little bit better. So that wasn't me talking shit about Dolores. I told people if you wanted to help Dolores with a refrigerator, either A, get a refrigerator and have it donated to her, or put the money in Steven's commissary account because Steven can take money out of his commissary and give it to people. So you could give it to Steven and Steven could give that money. Or you could send it to Kathleen Zellner and mark on it that this is to go to Dolores. Those are the only ways I trust money going to Dolores. That's all I said. But Sandy Greenman likes to twist everything, and because she wants to be who Steven loves best, and so she talked shit and lied about me to Steven, and I haven't heard from him since. Whatever. You know, I've said over and over, I don't do this to be friends with Steven or I don't have to have any contact with the family. I know Steven is innocent and I support his innocence. And that's what I'm doing, just like all of you. You know, you all support Steven's innocence. You don't talk to him, you don't go visit him. You don't have to do those things. You don't have to be friends with his family to support Steven and Brendan's innocence. So, and Stephen Avery Project was the very first Making a Murderer Facebook page. It is the biggest support page there is. All the other pages combined do not add up to the numbers that we have on Stephen Avery Project. So, it's a little confusing on why you would constantly target the biggest support there is for Stephen. Whatever. Rightless Sandy Greenman is who you see in Making a Murderer, who became like his fiance, and then they broke up. She claimed because he wouldn't accept Jesus Christ as his personal Lord and Savior, and then she claims she's the one that got him, Kathleen Zellner, which is not true. Sandy tells a lot of lies to make herself look better. It's actually Steven who got Kathleen Zellner. It was Stephen who had been trying to get Kathleen for a long time prior to making a murderer because she is the best. And Kathleen did not take the case, didn't consider it until making a murderer became a big deal. And it was Stephen that told Sandy to do such and such. So Sandy, following Stephen's ask, is not her doing this. And then, so she's the one that broke up with him prior to making a murderer being a big deal. And then once making a murderer became a big deal, then she was desperate to become his fiance again. And loving all the attention. So when Steven started talking to another woman and got engaged to that woman, Sandy went to a tabloid and sold a story, a nasty story that she told about Steven and his family. And then she also then got engaged to a pedophile at Steven's prison. So those are the kind of lengths that she goes to. But people see that, oh, this is Sandy, see, blah, blah, blah. And they're just gonna, excuse all that. I don't. And I used to defend Sandy a lot because the family hates her. So back in the day, I used to defend Sandy. No more, since I saw the real situation there. Let me scroll here. Okay, so first thing you wanted me to talk about was her dementia and that she's in a nursing home. Next thing was what can we do to help? Cards, letters, etc., etc. I don't know if any of you who are in the other groups, the family fan pages, if anything does ever get posted on where you can send a letter or a card for Dolores, please let us know. But this would have to go directly to Dolores. So if they post where her the home is, the nursing home she's in, so you could send a card or letter there. I'm sure you could send a card or letter to Kathleen Zellner and it will get to Dolores. And same thing goes for Stephen. You could send it to Stephen and Stephen could send it to his mom. So, and then we already went over my recommendations if you want to throw money at this, the acceptable ways to do it. And Debbie is saying, I didn't know she sold a story. Yep, she did. A British tabloid, too. One of the, worst of the worst. We've posted it a couple of times. Maybe we'll dig it up again and get it posted in Gossip. So you can all see what Sandy does when she doesn't get her way, that she sells a story. Okay, so next he said, this is very sad. So much time stolen. We've already done that. My meeting with Dolores. So I have only met Dolores twice. The first time is when I was still friends with the family. And that was the day that, so I went to Steven's trailer, the garage, the burn pit. I took the video showing that there's no way Pam of God could have found the car as quickly as she did. And then I also took the video that proves there's no way the bus driver saw Teresa Halbach by the red van that day. When I was walking back from where the red van had been to the bus stop, Dolores was driving her golf cart. And I have a picture of that too, because Jeff had taken a picture of when I was talking with Dolores. So that's the first time I met her. Dolores had pulled up in her golf cart and we were chatting a bit. And at that time, I had organized a Universal rally that was coming up. And so I was talking to her about that, asking her if she was coming to the rally. And she said, she doesn't want to go, that she can't walk well. I told her, then she said, but Steven really wants her to be there. And I told her I would pay to rent a wheelchair and we could push her around there, so it was just a really, and then she offered for me to get in the golf cart and she would drive me back to the bus stop. But, I'm constantly, not constantly, because if it was constantly, I wouldn't be this fat. But I'm constantly trying to find excuses to walk a little more to try and, get myself in shape. And I said, no, thank you very much, but I'll walk. So that's the first time I met her. And then the second time, I was going to Milwaukee for a different event. Milwaukee is the halfway point between my house and the salvage yard. So I then decided, since I was going to be halfway there, I would go the rest of the way. And funny enough, at that time, I was friends still with Sandy Greenman. I was not friends with the Avery family. I So I messaged Sandy and I asked her if it would be okay if I stopped in and visited with Dolores that day, and that the moderators wanted me to bring some money and give to Dolores. And so then Sandy gave me Dolores's phone number. And so I called Dolores and I asked if she was going to be home, and she was quite excited to have a visitor. And she said she had one appointment she was going to go to, but she would be home, so she was telling me what time she would be home. And so then I went up there on that day and we visited a little bit. I probably didn't stay longer than an hour because, you don't want to overdo it, and Kathleen Zellner had just filed something at that time too, and I was surprised to find out that Dolores knew nothing about the filing or anything that was in it. And that was the filing when she was really focusing on Bobby and Scott. And so Dolores knew nothing about the focus being on Bobby, but Dolores told me that she thought the person who did whatever it was to Teresa Halbach was Scott. So, yeah. So that was the second time that I visited with Dolores. I have thought about it, of going to visit her at other times, because I've been up there a couple times since then. But the family hates me so much. And I really, there's no reason for me to create that kind of drama for Dolores. So, so I haven't seen her since then. Christopher asked what I found most interesting about Dolores when I met her. She's exactly what you think from watching Making a Murderer. There's no bullshit. She's going to say what she's going to say. She was very pleasant, and I know there's been lots of people who have gone to Avery Salvage and just went and knocked on her door, and that she's been very open with everyone. So I guess that's what I would say is the most interesting, that she's exactly how you think she is. Then Christopher says, this is so difficult for us to process. Imagine how painful it must be for Steven. I have to admit that's something that I thought about immediately when this was first brought to my attention, is for me to write to Steven. I have not sent him a letter since he cut me off. Because again, do not want to create more drama. And if Steven doesn't like me, he doesn't like me, you know? So I haven't, so I never even reached out to him to try and tell him the other side. Um, because, is it really worth it? But on this, I did think about going, you know, I genuinely feel for Steven. This is really, really sad. Um, but I also don't want it to be, if I was to send him a letter of sympathy or empathy or whatever, to just upset him because he's told all these lies about me. So I don't want to muddy it up with the bullshit that the family directs my way. No, Lisa, as far as I know, his dad is still alive. Um, Wait, let me scroll back to whatever this was. I know some of your history with the family before because I'm nosy and asked, but could you contact any of them, Kayla or whatever, to ask about Dolores, or would you be shut down by all of them? I haven't talked to Kayla in a long, long time. And the last time I talked to Kayla, she was now back in um, with the family. And so she was like threatening me about her family things, which is really sad because I defended her to the family. I mean, the first time I ever met the family, they were all ripping on Kayla brutally. This young girl, and it was Carla, her husband Stacy, Barb. Was Scott there that day? I can't remember if Scott was there that day or not. And Chuck. So those are the ones I know for sure. Barb, Carla, Chuck, and Stacy were the ones there. We were in the garage of the salvage yard. Um, and they were just talking all kinds of shit about Kayla. And this was so new. Um, because that was February. So Making a Murderer had come out in December. So this was that following February. That's how fresh it was. 2 months after Making a Murderer. And they were just ripping into Kayla. And I didn't know hardly anything about the family dynamics at that time. So it was just very confusing to me to hear all that mean stuff about Kayla, and that these are old people talking about this young girl. Andrea says, "Couldn't we ask Kim for updates, or has she been ousted by the family?" Andrea, I have not heard from Kim or Courtney since the rally. So I don't know what's going on there. Um, so I don't know if they're just no longer on Facebook and mostly Twitter people, or I know Courtney was always trying to make it so everybody got along, and that douchebag, sorry, I know people are going to get mad at me all over again, that douchebag Richard McAdams, who went by the name Eric Goze, or however the fuck you pronounce it, had just died. And I'm not phony. I didn't like the guy. So I'm not going to sit here and be, "Oh my God, he died." I don't care. I'm sorry. I don't. I didn't like him. I saw, because mind you, I knew Richard before he had a YouTube channel. We were in private messages together. Um, I know he was a shady fuck. Um, so I could have upset Courtney and Kim when he died, and I blatantly said I don't give a shit. Because I'm going to be me. Helen Slater Jones. Now, sorry, whenever I see the name Helen Slater, I'm always going to think of the legend of Billie Jean, Fair is Fair. I love that movie. But thank you, Helen. Alan is usually at the Crivets property. I don't know how much he's there or there. Um, Gwen says Kim put a picture up of a letter Courtney found in a book today. Yeah, no, I have no idea about the whole Kim and Courtney thing. So I'm just guessing that me being me and not going to be phony and pretend to like people. Um, did I wish death upon the guy? No, but I'm not going to be all tears that he died because he's always been a piece of shit. Um, Next thing, Christopher says everyone's family deals with dementia at some point. Now, I don't know any facts and figures on that and how common dementia is. And I'll be honest. I mean, I actually just told Jeff the other day where I'm like, I think I'm in early stages. And it's not me um being dramatic or whatever. There's times I'm literally like forgetting stuff, names, more than just math. So I've wondered at times of going, is eh, is this the road I'm going down? And am I in early stages? Um, Wait, Jax, help me here. Seriously though, why do they hate you so much? What have you done so wrong other than try getting justice for Steven? I'm so confused here. I've told this story before, but here we go because I know we get new people all the time. All right. And I am going to condense it down because it is a long story. Once upon a time, once upon a time, I was friends with Carla Chase, who is Steven's niece, is his brother Chuck's daughter. I really liked Carla. And I've been to Carla's house, Carla's been to my house. And so we were planning a universal rally. So it was the very first June Manitowoc rally that I was put in charge of organizing. There were two other girls that were working on the Manitowoc rally with me. Because we had a rally in California. There were rallies a bunch of different places, but then there was the Manitowoc. So it was me and two other girls that were doing Manitowoc. One girl wanted to make the rally all about her. And so one of Carla's minions, who had nothing to do with organizing any of the rallies, she was reaching out to press about the rallies. And so then she tried to do a Facebook call with me and the two other girls. And the two other girls didn't answer it. I was the only one who answered it. And so she told me that she had reached out to this one website called Hello something. I can't even remember what it's called. And that they wanted to talk to the organizers of the Manitowoc rally. And so the girl wanted to know if it was okay to pass on our phone numbers to this publication. And we were all supposed to then, there was a time that was agreed on that we were going to do another Facebook call, all of us. And again, I was the only one that got on that call. The other two girls did not. And so I said, okay, yeah, that's fine. If they want to call me on it, they can. Go ahead and give them my number. And so then in the message that was just me and the other two girls, I said, okay, what she wanted was this. And so send, tell her yes or no and give her your information. Well, the one girl got so upset because she wanted to be the only person to talk to press. And this was a girl who, throughout all the times in organizing this event, we had so many times where she quit and said she wasn't going to do it anymore, and she was completely walking away, and then she would come back. It was just drama, drama, drama. Um, so she got all mad, didn't want anybody else to talk to the press, and said she was going to quit again. She talked to Carla. Carla then reached out to me and told me that the girl was throwing yet another fit. And then what Carla had said was, if I have to, I can pull rank and tell you all what you can and can't do. And I said, oh, no, no. You don't get to tell me what I can do and can't do. You know, because Carla gave herself the nickname family spokesperson. Nobody asked her to be the family spokesperson. She wasn't even talking to Stephen or Brendan when she made herself the family spokesperson. All right? Because she just wanted the attention, right? But I just told her no. And literally, too, while we're having this phone call, all right, because the rally was that coming weekend. You know, so we were days away from the rally. And when I was talking to Carla, I was at Jeff's print shop printing all this shit for the rally. Shirts and buttons and signs and banners and, you know, you name it. We were making it. And that's how I remember this call too, clear as day, that I was there making stuff for the rally, and Carla telling me she can pull rank. And I was like, no, you can't. You can't tell me what any of us can do or can't do. So then the next day, when I wake up, there's a message on my phone from this guy that I'm the admin for a Facebook page that is Free Brendan Dassey. And it was Free Brendan that put together this petition for the Juvenile Interrogation Protection Law, which at that time was also nicknamed Barb Taddock Law, about trying to make sure that if you're going to interrogate a youth, there needs to be an adult present that's there for the kid. So there's a message from him, and he said overnight, we were now locked out of the petition, and that Carla had reached out to him and told him all this bunch of bullshit and lies about me, trying to then get him to turn against me. And it's like, are you kidding me right now? All because I said, basically, you're not the boss of me. You're going to go to this lengths to try and sabotage the, you know, and she obviously didn't pay attention to how I know this guy. He's married to the girl, a girl who grew up. Her backyard was diagonal from my backyard. I've known her since I was like 6 years old. You know, I met this guy when I was in high school. You know, so this just, you know, so they live here, you know. So you're not going to be able to go to him and say stuff about me. And she said blatant lies that he knows isn't true. But he's somebody who wants to stay neutral and not get pulled into any drama, you know, but he was just letting me know that this had just happened. And then I reached out to Carla and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now that you just did this? Oh my God. That's really jumping to one extreme just because I said I don't have to take orders from you. And it's been a roller coaster ever since. You know, I'm not going to get into every little thing that has happened. Maybe one day, and we've done it before where I've gone over a whole bunch more. But that's what kicked it all off. It's so stupid. Absolutely stupid. And then it got even worse when I took over Stephen Avery Project, because when that happened, I was not Stephen Avery Project. I was just Free Brendan. I took over Stephen Avery Project when the guy who founded it decided it was time for him to move on because of the things Carla was doing to him to try and mess with his. I mean, she caused at one point his wife to leave him. And they at that time had a young child, and she was pregnant with another. But she was so desperate that she wanted her claws into Stephen Avery Project because of the numbers. That's all she wanted. And so he couldn't take it anymore. And the moderators that he had at that time suggested to him that I would be the best person to take it over. That I would be and he had said there was no way he was turning it over to the family. So, so then I took over Stephen Avery Project, and he had one last visit with Stephen, letting him know that he, couldn't do this anymore, and then gave Stephen my contact information. And this is the person who is taking it over. And then Stephen called me from that. And then I used to talk to Stephen on the phone. And I talked to Stephen on the phone for, I don't know how long it was. And then the family told him I don't even remember what it was the first time that they did, that they got Stephen to not talk to me any longer. Oh, I know what it was. It was that Tracy Strunzy bitch who says I'm basically a lawyer. That chick. Because she now she has manipulated Sandy Greenman into, we're like BFFs, so she could get in closer into the Stephen case. And she really didn't like Stephen talking to me. So she's and she was somebody who would talk to Stephen because she would hang out at Sandy's house. And when Sandy would talk to Stephen, she would get on the phone and talk to him some. And then eventually it changed to Stephen would call her. And so, I mean, she told him so much crap. And so he stopped talking to me. That's when he then put her and her friend on his visitors list. They started visiting him. And when you put somebody on a visitor's list, they have to be on your list for 6 months. And so when that 6 months was up, he then, for whatever reason, I know what the reason was. He removed them from his visitors list. Why? Because Sandy Greenman asked him not to, or to remove them. Why? Because she said these girls were only using her to get to Stephen. And that they weren't really coming and hanging out with her anymore and having anything to do with her. And she felt very used by them. And she wanted them removed. Now, she hasn't told them that and will deny it. But that's what Stephen told me, is that Sandy told her to remove them from the visitors list. So he did. And so out of the blue one day, Stephen calls me. And so when I answer the call, he's like, well, how you doing, stranger? And he's laughing and he says, bet you weren't expecting to hear from me. Nope. And then that's when he told me about Tracy and what's the other chick's name? I can't remember her name. Doesn't matter. And then he said he was putting me on his visitors list. Which then they all made it out like I made him remove them off of the list to put me on. Nope. Because see, I don't play in all their drama shit. I don't go to their pages. I don't have a fake Facebook name, the sock account thing, all of that. I don't do any of that. People will send me screenshots, and I appreciate when you do, when it's pertaining to me or something that's important to the case. All the other drama they do, I don't give a shit. I don't care. Um, so yeah, so they were claiming I'm the one that did it, and it's like I didn't do it at all. Your buddy Sandy did it, and so he then reached out to me. I started visiting him. Carla had made a post on Facebook saying that if Steven doesn't remove me from her visitors list, she will cut him out of her life and only support Brendan from now on. And that's what the bulk of them were saying, that they wouldn't support Steven any longer. They would only support Brendan. Um, this from Carla, the person who didn't visit Steven a single time he was in prison until Making a Murderer came out. Didn't talk to him till Making a Murderer came out. Yeah, whatever. So then you had Sandy tell them that, or tell Steven that I was talking shit about Dolores, which obviously that's going to be a hot button thing for Steven. And when this had happened the first time when Steven called me up, I told him, if this ever happens again, please just come to me and tell me, ask me, accuse me of what's being said, and let me tell you my side of it before you just move on. And he didn't. But whatever. So, yeah, I haven't reached out to him since then. Um, and this Dolores thing really, because I feel sorry. Really sorry for Steven. Um, but chances are he probably doesn't care that I feel sorry for him. We did that rally in July, and I sent $100 to him and then $100 to Brendan. I didn't hear from either one of them. So, so if he's not going to acknowledge when money is sent to him, is he going to really care if I send him a card or a letter expressing my sympathy for Dolores? So it's probably best that I stay away. Steven should know that I'm always here from him for him. So at any time he wanted to reach out to me, he could. Matt, when was the last time you talked to Steven? So it was a visit, and it was on Father's Day. So it was probably, was it 2019? I'm really bad with numbers. So it might have been Father's Day 2019. Yeah, Father's Day 2019 is the last time I've talked to Steven. Um, Next, Christopher says, words of encouragement for those feeling sad because of Dolores's death. It's sad. You've got a right to feel that sadness because this is tragic. So, while I can't write to Steven, you can. Go ahead and send Steven a letter telling him how you feel about Dolores. Tell him, what your thoughts were watching her on Making a Murderer and the things that she did. Tell him good things. Don't wallow. Um, because it's not about just bringing him down. So, tell him some great things that you think about Dolores, to try and boost his spirits. So I encourage you, to send a card or a letter to Steven and express your thoughts. We do have a pinned post that has the address for where you can write to Steven. So go ahead and do that. And oh yeah, this live, Christopher asked me earlier in the week about it. And then I'm like, I'm not sure with the stuff I have going on when I can. And then I was like, all right, you can ask people if New Year's Eve or New Year's Day would be better. So here we are. Matt says, Steven almost seems ungrateful for all you've done. He is, but he's also being told such horrible things about me. And I'm not really upset about it because no matter what is done to me in this whole wacky making a murderer universe, I'm not in prison. So, I don't need a thank you from Steven. Um, I understand the manipulations he's put through, I guess. Um, oh, Tamara didn't even get a notice. Yeah, I know. Sometimes Facebook does it and sometimes it doesn't. Heather said, let's remember that they are normal people like all of us and deserve privacy until Earl goes and blabs his mouth. Very true. Because, I mean, I know I have said before something on Dolores's dementia, but I really haven't talked about it a lot because it's not my place to. So, I've known some things for a while and I haven't said it because it's not my place. Um yes, Sarah, Stephen would know that I was the one that put the money in his commissary. And also, I know the family talked shit about it, saying that they were going to check on it to make sure that I did give the money. Whatever. Um, no, Judy, Dolores did not pass. She's just in a nursing home that we're aware of. We only know what family has posted. Um, and then there's some Happy New Year's. All right, back to the things that Christopher wants me to cover. What happens to Stephen's case if Dolores dies? Will Kathleen be able to somehow include this in his list of grievances that he's lost due to his wrongful conviction? Well, nothing happens to his case. The case will continue on as it has. Um, will she be able to list this in grievances? Sure. Will it matter? Don't know. Um, Melissa Kaluzinski, another one of Kathleen Zellner's clients, last year, she lost both of her grandmas in that year, and inmates can go to the services, but it has to get approved, and they did not approve Melissa to go to her grandmother's services because they said it would be too costly and not safe. So they wouldn't let Melissa go. So that year was horrible for Melissa because she lost both of her grandparents and her dog. If you've ever watched anything on Melissa's case and you've seen her interrogation where she was tricked into wrongfully confessing, a thing she says in there is she just wants to get home to her puppy. And so in 2019, both her grandmas died and her dog died. So um yeah, it can be added, um but it's not necessarily going to do anything. Let me look at what was being said here. Heather says, what's Barb up to these days? I haven't a clue. You all would probably know better than I. Um, Sonia says, Earl said it wasn't going well with Mama Avery. Yep, that's why we're here live today. Natalie says, yeah, Stephen is very naive and childlike in some things. It seems, and he can only go on the limited information he gets from some people and seems to react first and think about it later. Possibly a learning difficulty, but he's used to being caught up in the family drama and will unfortunately trust the wrong people. Between The whispers he would have been told. It seems he reacted first and didn't understand you were trying to protect Dolores and make sure that the money actually reached her and wasn't being siphoned away by other people using her to scam money. Yep, I agree. Matt says, do you think Steven will spend the rest of his life in prison, or are you hopeful he gets released? Matt, of course I'm hopeful he gets released. Absolutely, he should be released. He should not be there. I used to say to Steven all the time, once he's out, Wisconsin should be renamed Averyland and he should own the whole state for what's been done to him. Um, I'm absolutely hopeful that Steven will be released. Um, do I think he will be? That's a tougher one. And it's just because our legal system is so bad. All the evidence is there to prove Steven's innocence. But the way the court system is just makes it so hard. So, will he get out? I don't know. But I'm hopeful he does. And I'm hopeful that Brendan does. Wendy asks, does he ever thank his fans? He does. You know, he sends those cards. You know, he'll send cards to either Sandy or he sends it to Kathleen that they post the pictures of. And in there, he'll say thank you to people. Um, but Steven doesn't write very much because he's not good at it, first of all. He doesn't like to do it. And then there's been people who have manipulated things that Steven has written and they've sold it to tabloids and so on. So, yeah, so he's not, you know, he doesn't write to a lot of people. And if I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be completely honest here. And people are going to take what I'm about to say as me talking shit about Steven. And I'm absolutely not talking shit about Steven. The most of the time, the people that Steven will write back to are attractive women who are hitting on Steven. Like they're interested in him. You know, and sends him provocative pictures. That's how he ended up with that freak that I'm not going to say her name because she enjoys the attention. She manipulated and tricked him because Steven just wants to be loved and wants to love somebody, wants to get married, wants to have children. And there's plenty of people who write to him and act like they're in love with him and all that. And so those are the people that will usually get answers. It's not me talking shit about Steven at all. I get why he does that. But that's just the truth. Debbie says, it's so sad. A lot don't get to go and pay their final respects at funerals of their loved ones. Kat says, ugh, Barb is still defending Bobby as far as I know. Don't know what else she is up to. And there's Heather. Ugh, also. Heather says, according to Kayla, they didn't get a lot of the stuff that was purchased. Yep. That's why I tell people don't do it. Don't do that stuff. Natalie says, is Kathleen Zellner's last filing due to be heard in February 2021? We are waiting for the court's response to Kathleen's filing. That's what we're waiting for. And there is no time limit. So we are waiting to hear if the court will say, okay, there's enough here that we should at least get an evidentiary hearing to bring in the new evidence and see if then that will determine that he gets a new trial. Will they say we don't need an evidentiary hearing? Isn't that what they're saying? Though that one thing was, I can't remember now. If we don't need an evidentiary hearing and we're just going to go right to a new trial, or we're just going to go to a hearing on it, or will they just say he's released? So we're waiting to hear from the court. We're not waiting for another filing. So, and they can take as long as they want. Okay. Thank you, Helen. Nope, it's again, we are waiting for court's response to Kathleen's filing. We did a Natalie, we did a video on Stephen Avery Project, the public page, where sorry, my dogs are barking. So I was looking on the monitors to see if somebody was here, but no. Um, where I read Kathleen's last filing, and we did it just a couple weeks ago. So you can find that video, and we go over all of that. And Carol Ann, I'll get to that. That's the last thing that Christopher wants me to cover. um, Next one is why can't the family be more open and honest about what's going on? Sure, health is a private matter, but there's people all over the world deeply concerned and affected. Because they only think about themselves? They don't really care about Stephen, Brendan, or Dolores? You know, um, did they do a Christmas grift this year of trying to collect things saying it was for Dolores? So did they need people to think Dolores was home and able to get those things so they could get that? Um I don't know. And I don't know if it's happened already, but fully expect them to say that they need money now to pay for her care. I'm sure that's coming. And this again is not me talking shit. This is me just stating the facts. The Avery family is far from broke. You can't judge someone who choose to live like the Averys live. Just because they live in, Dolores lives in a trailer, doesn't mean she does it because she's poor. So, the family's not paying for Steven's legal defense. So it's not like they're broke because of paying for Kathleen Zellner. So, um, so they can't be more open and honest. They could be if they were good people. um, but they want to make sure they're going to pocket from the fans from making a murderer. Right, Bob. There is no timetable for the court hearing. Um, Next one. Up, this is talking about the GoFundMe, which we've done, and that you can donate directly to Kathleen Zellner. Um, Next is, has Alan moved back from Crivets to live closer to Dolores to help support Dolores and family during this time? I don't have any clue. I'm going to assume no. He's going to stay in Crivets. That's where he likes to be. This is also COVID. It is not good for Alan to be going all out and about either. So it is better for him to just stay in Crivets and not be going where, this could be spread to him and could kill him. So, and then if Dolores has dementia, does she even know who Alan is? So is there any benefit to Alan being back in Manitowoc? So I don't know where Alan is for sure or what's going on, but I think he should just remain in Crivets and stay safe. Um, Christopher asks, can we do a Don't Mess with Mama Avery mask or shirt and donate some of the money to Dolores's care? Now, those of you who have been around know this. Those of you who are new, my boyfriend owns a print shop. So it is so easy for me to get stuff printed. But in the past, we have done these things, and then the family always accuses me of stealing the money. So I'm always leery of doing it. And then also on my end, it's always a pain in the ass to do, to organize. We always lose money on it, the way Jeff prices everything and with shipping and all that. We've always gone into the negative. Not that we're making any money on it. We recoup whatever was paid. We try to. Um, but we've always paid out of our pockets for these things. And so I would prefer, if you wanted to donate to Dolores's care, then you put money in Stephen's commissary or give it to Kathleen and say it's to go to Dolores. If there is a an Avery shirt that you want or a mask you want, Jeff can make anything. So you can contact Jeff directly and work out with him, because he'll ship anywhere. And you pay to his PayPal. So, sometimes that, it would just look better if things didn't go through me, because then they're always trying to make it out like I stole this money, that I'm looking to profit off of this case. And I'm so not. But I get people wanting to have a shirt or a car sticker or whatever to support Stephen and Brendan. So you can contact Jeff directly. We can get something posted on that for you to contact him. Steven says, do you know if they're working on a new season for Making a Murderer? Not at this time, because there's nothing new. So if Stephen was to get an evidentiary hearing, if he was to get a new trial, something, they would start filming again. But there's, and this is again goes to our legal system. We get months and months where there's nothing happening in this case. There's nothing to talk about. So, if there's something, they absolutely would do it, because look at how many people watch both part 1 and 2. So there's no reason they wouldn't, because it's very successful. Lots of questions lately about petitions people can sign to help the case. My thoughts on this. My thoughts on this are petitions are pointless. They just are. They do nothing. There's the rare occasion a petition's been cited in something. A petition's not going to do anything. And then people make petitions and they do it wrong. It's addressing the wrong person. So like there was somebody who had a petition for Stephen, and the petition was asking Trump to pardon Stephen. Trump can't pardon Stephen. Trump can only pardon federal cases. Stephen's case is a state case. Only the governor can pardon him. So everybody who signs a petition that is addressed to President Trump, pardon Stephen, it's just a waste. So look at how successful Making a Murderer was. How many millions of people watched that? And that didn't get Stephen out. A petition's not going to do anything. And a lot of times petitions are just used to collect your email address, and then you're going to start getting, sham email stuff. So I don't sign any petitions. I was a part of the one for Brendan, the juvenile interrogation protection law. Thought maybe something could be done with that, but the family ruined it. So, Heather, yes, he can pardon Joe Exotic, and rumor is he's going to. We'll see. Masha says, how often do you go live on Facebook? It varies. All right, so we have 3 different pages. So there's Stephen Avery Project. I don't go live on Stephen Avery Project very often. We go live there like when there is a brief filed in Stephen's case. On Stephen Avery Project, we only talk about the case. So, like all this talk that I'm doing about the family and Sandy and all that, we don't do that on Stephen Avery Project. Most of the people who follow this case, they don't want to hear any of that bullshit. They're not really care. They don't really care about the case all that in depthly. Is that even a word? In depthly? That's not a word. Um. So then we started this group, MAM Gossip, so we could go over all the real dirt that's going on with the case. And it's also a place where I can talk about other cases. Because when I try to post them on Stephen Avery Project, those people get mad and go, "What does this have to do about with Stephen's case?" Which I call bullshit. Stephen's case isn't the only case in the world, and we have so much downtime that nothing's going on in Stephen's case. So why can't you hear about such and such case? So that's what MAM Gossip was started for. Then there is Justice with Jax, that there's a public page as well as a closed group. And so Justice with Jax talks about is where all the other cases are that we discuss, and anything that I find wrong in our judicial system. I will post any case on that. That also will delve a little bit into politics. So not all of you may agree with some of the things that goes on Justice with Jax, because maybe the way I feel about somebody in a case, you may not. I guess it depends on what side of the aisle you're on. We are going to be doing Facebook Lives on Justice with Jax for this crime series that we do, where we cover we take on a different case and then we go in depth into that case, and we've divided into two teams, and then we do lives talking about what we've discovered in our own investigating of those different cases. So, Justice with Jax, the group you're in now, um, we do a lot of these Ask Jax Anythings, where people can ask me any questions about the case. Not that I am the all-knowing Oz on the case. I have forgotten so many. I did study this case really in depthly. In depthly again. There I am with this made-up word. Um, but over the years, I have forgotten a lot of the stuff too. But so here in MAM Gossip is where a lot more lives get done. We've done things in here where we'll watch a documentary together and talk about it as it's playing. So we do many different things here in Gossip. I just haven't been on as much because I work in politics, and we just had an election in November, so I was very, very busy. And then now we've just had the holidays, and I'm going to have the first 15 days of January, well, starting on Monday, through January 15th. I'm gonna be working a whole lot every day, um, so my schedule is gonna be really tight in January. But Christopher, who is one of the moderators, he will make the Facebook events when we've decided I'll go live for something. We try to give some notice. And so I always advise people to click interested or going to the Facebook event he does. So then hopefully you'll get a reminder and it'll be in your events. And so you'll better know when we're live. And then I try to keep it the same time every time I do. So we go live typically around 1 p.m. Central Time. I live in a Chicago suburb, so it's 1 p.m. my time. So like right now it's 2:23 p.m. So when we go live, that's when it'll be. And I don't really go live on weekends unless it's one of the field trips when I take people around Manitowoc, so you guys can see. Um Let me scroll and see if there was anything I need to answer. In depthly. Yep, Heather. Yes, Stephen. Brendan's case was brought to the Supreme Court. Um, it's still not technically a federal case because the Supreme Court denied it. So he's still a state case, and the governor needs to pardon him. Um, okay, Carol Ann. There is a Justice with Jax YouTube page. I haven't been on it in a long, long time, Wendy, but we did do a whole lot of Stephen prison calls on there. So you can find those calls on the Justice with Jax YouTube channel. All right, so next he's got in closing, let's keep positive and send Dolores good thoughts and supportive energies. I concur. And then he wants me to remind everybody January 7th at 1 p.m. Central is when our true crime series will be on Justice with Jax, where we're talking about the George Stinney Jr. case. And then he added one last thing, tell us about Kai. So Kai is a dog that I am now technically fostering. I've helped out a dog rescue in my area that they rescue dogs from Texas, and they need people to drive the dogs from Texas up here to Illinois. And so I did it like a month ago that I had to drive to Springfield, Missouri. And at that time I got uh, um it was like ten puppies that I drove back here. And now on Monday, I this time it was shorter for me. I only had to drive to St. Louis, Missouri, and I picked up this 4-year-old German Shepherd who was pregnant, and she has heartworms, and she's got some disease due to being bit by a tick. But it was very important that they get her up here as quickly as possible because of that she's pregnant, and that she wasn't really being treated because of the puppies. So we ended up, Jeff went with me for this one. So we left here about 7:30 p.m. And so we got to St. Louis about 11:30 p.m. The people, or actually I think we got there at like 11:15. The people that were driving up from Texas didn't get there till midnight. So then we got, and her name is Kai. So then we picked up Kai. We got home about 4 a.m. And then we kept her here. And then I had a doctor's appointment at 8:30 in the morning. So go figure, getting home at 4. I went to bed at 6. Went to bed at 6, and then I set my alarm for 7:45 to get up and shower and then be to the doctor at 8:30. So I did the doctor, and then after the doctor, I picked up Kai and I took her to the rescue. That night, Kai gave birth to 3 puppies, all stillborn. And that's all she had was 3. And a typical litter, I guess, is like 6 to 8 for a German Shepherd. So she only had 3, and they were full-term puppies. Now, I have had 2 German Shepherds in my life, and I love German Shepherds. And I have been wanting another one for so long. But we already have 3 dogs, all rescues. And Jeff didn't want a 4th dog. But I had already talked prior to this, when it was known that I was going to go pick up Kai, that I was going to take one of the puppies. I told the rescue, I'm going to take a puppy. Now there are no puppies. And I'm just feeling horrible for Kai because I don't know everything that she has gone through. The drama in her life. But but now knowing she lost her babies, I was messaging with the rescue and wanting to know how she was doing. And I asked, does she have somebody who's adopting her? Or does she have a foster home? What does she need? And they said they do not have anybody that's in line to adopt her. She's got these two diseases that I guess the medical care for her is going to be around 6 to 9 months. Um, and so I said I was going to talk to Jeff and see about us taking her. And but then I had to wait to talk to Jeff because all right, so you had Monday night, we drove overnight to go get Kai. Then on Tuesday, we got hit with a storm and Jeff snowplows. And so he was gone. He left here Tuesday night at around 7 p.m. and then came home Wednesday around 9 a.m. and then went to sleep. So I'm like, he's going to be sleeping for quite a bit of time. And so Jeff got up at like 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. And I didn't know how I was going to approach him on it because I know, and I mean, and he's right. 4 dogs is a lot. And two of the dogs we currently have will piss and shit in the house, and it's so aggravating. And you know better. And we have a huge yard, and they're out. I don't work a job outside of the home, so I'm home, and so these dogs go outside a lot. There's no reason to crap in the house, but they still do, and it's frustrating. And so Jeff doesn't want to add to that. I get it, but I asked him, and Jeff didn't have a single issue with it. And so I reached out to them, and they're like, "When do you want her?" They were like thrilled that we were taking her because something that they told me is after we dropped her off on Tuesday, she looked for us for like a half hour, crying and looking for us, which also just broke my heart. So we went over there on Wednesday night about 7 p.m. and picked her up. So right now, Kai is, like I said, technically a foster. We want to make sure she gets along okay with our three before we officially adopt her. So, and the rescue, this is a great rescue that I work with. They're going to cover all of her medical costs. So, and we've introduced her to R3, and all she does is bark at him. Bark, bark, bark. And she's huge. This is a big German Shepherd. She's 4 years old, full grown. She's like the size of a male. So even, Mallory, my pit bull, is intimidated. I was really worried there was going to be a full on fight, but Mallory ain't even fronting with this dog. So we know it takes time. And she did just lose her babies. So something she has done is Maddie. Maddie is she is a Chihuahua Min Pin mix. She has twice tried to grab her, so biting onto her like the scruff of her neck to pick her up like she would a puppy. So we've been advised to keep them really apart for now. You also don't want to fully stress out Kai. She is still, she just gave birth, so she is still spotting and such. So we don't want her stressed out. So we're having the dogs together for short periods of time. Also, when we go outside, we have an electronic fence. So my dogs can run around, and then we walk Kai on a leash out there. And so we take Kai out the same time the other dogs are, that they can kind of get together then. But yeah, so slow and steady. And that's also why I'm on here now. We're at an hour and a half, and I'd only wanted to keep this to an hour because it's like Kai hasn't been here that long yet. So it's like I'm like devoting all my time right now to spending with Kai. But then I also keep splitting it up too because my three are being kept on one floor of the house and Kai is on another floor. I have a split level house. So my three are on the floor that has the kitchen, dining room, and the room that we refer to as the theater. And then Kai is downstairs where it's like a family room and a bar and where all Jeff's fish tanks are. So, yeah, so they're mostly being kept separate. And then if Kai hears the other ones, she barks at him through the door. So I went yesterday and bought a baby gate. So we've had the baby gate up so they could still see each other. But then if Kai sees them, she just barks constantly. And she doesn't fully respond to her name, Kai. I don't know who gave it to her and how long she's had it. So I did discuss with Jeff, do you want to change her name? And Jeff said she has dealt with so much uncertainty. You know, her life has not been stable. So let's just keep her with that name. And then it was funny because then it dawned on me. And I'm like, Cobra Kai! Which annoyed the shit out of Jeff. And he's like, okay, now I would think about changing her name. I love the show Cobra Kai. I'm actually in the middle of watching the third season that premiered today. I only have 3 episodes left. And that's what I'll be going back to. So I'm like, oh, my Cobra Kai. If you haven't watched Cobra Kai, if you watched Karate Kid, or even if you hadn't, I love that show. But I'm also, of that time period. So very nostalgic for me and love it. All right. So I have covered all of Christopher's notes on everything. So I'm going to go for more Cobra and Kai time. Thank you all for joining me. Make sure we've got tons of videos in here in MAM Gossip. So go into our video tab, and that's where you can see other videos we've done, from field trips we've taken into Manitowoc, where you can see the walk of the Pam of God walk and all that. There's lots of goodies. So go ahead in there, and then on Thursday, go over to Justice with Jax, where we talk about the George Stinney Jr. case. Oh yeah, save it, Natalie. That'll be perfect for you. And I hope it's not a major surgery, and I hope it all goes well for you. So, all right, I'm out. We will talk again soon. Thank you, everybody. Investigation continues. Wish I could see your pretty face, my sexy girlfriend Miley.